Hello, it's Patty from Natural Law Health, and I'd like to talk a little bit about clarify, I should say, a few things about the health courses I'm teaching that will be used to help students pursuing a true naturopathic understanding. And part of what Dr. Morris is putting together, which he has taught so many classes. He's taught level 1 and level 2 ISOD courses. He's put together, I think he's finished putting it together, but the lymphatic iridology course. I know that this is a book that Dr. Morris recommended to me when I started working with him. This is, there's a first edition I have, but the second edition, volume 2, of Bernard Jensen. And I know this is backwards, with the camera. But these iridology images in the second volume, I think that's a good place to go to really start getting a nice understanding of iridology. I've got some photos in here of irises, and you can see, look at these beautiful pictures. And iridology it's not something that in the basic science courses you're going to learn from me, but when we talk about the map of the iris, and we're looking at what kind of genetic and lymphatic types of issues, and we talk about the genetic weaknesses perhaps, or even the lymphatic congestion that you can see in the iris. Noticing that and making note of that is one thing, but you really want to truly understand that, beginning with that foundational understanding of the basic sciences, which is where I am adding hopefully my little bit of expertise to what future naturopaths can benefit from by taking my courses. So with that said, I always like to tie things into iridology, and definitely when I offer the human anatomy and physiology courses over the summer, I will be correlating a lot of the different organs to their location on the eye. Dr. Morris is definitely the expert when it comes to iridology, but I think what I'll add are some iris images, and we can look at, the right and left iris and note where, for instance, the cardiac region or the kidney, the adrenal, the pituitary, all of these different organs in the body have a place on the iris. And it's like anything reflexology wise, like in traditional Chinese medicine with the ear, and even almost any organ in the body is holographically or kind of connected to everywhere else in the body. And it's quite a remarkable way to just get a better understanding of the person you're helping, and a better understanding of yourself as well. So you can learn a lot about yourself just by looking at your irises and figuring out, where your own weaknesses are, and, where you might want to strengthen that with the help of herbs and other sources from nature to strengthen glands and organs and tissues. So the electrical chemistry course that I'm teaching is currently running as a live course. It's available now, so if you want to sign up, there's still a chance. Now, if you go to my website and sign up, via my website, it says registration is closed, but you can still sign up through my educational website, where I'm now hosting the recordings. And even if you want to attend the remaining courses, there's 5 more electrical chemistry courses that we will be holding on Sundays, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, every Sunday. And you can still attend those, and you can then catch up by watching the recording of the last course that was offered this past Sunday. All you have to do is you purchase the online version of the course, send me an email, and I'll give you the link for the live course. Now keep in mind, I can only hold 100 students in my course, and I'm not at maximum capacity yet. So there is still room if you'd like to join. And I'll put links down to the bottom. So for the electrical chemistry, you'll have to again, go and purchase the course through my online format, and I'm keeping it really, really, really cheap. I was thinking about making the course a little bit more expensive, mostly to cover my costs, I'm paying for Zoom so that I can hold so many students in a classroom. I'm also paying monthly for my website, paying monthly for my educational website, which costs a lot of money to host videos like that. So, I'm almost kind of making even at this point. But I don't know how much longer I can keep these costs as low as they are. So right now, I'm still sticking with the $55.55 for the electrical chemistry course and for the cell biology course. But I'm thinking about raising those prices just because as more students want to join, I do pay per student a little extra for their access to these materials. So right now, it's still pretty cheap though. So please take advantage of that. Again, details in the description below this website. And I always like to discuss more than just health on my YouTube videos and my library videos and wherever else you may be watching these videos. So, we're embarking on some pretty strange times, and I find myself kind of walking between two worlds, so to speak. I have a full-time job where I teach at a brick and mortar college, and I teach future allopathic healthcare professionals. And it's kind of interesting because I left that field of medicine many years ago. I did not want to pursue a career any longer in medicine, and I kind of found out the hard way that I didn't want to do that after kind of getting entrenched in the allopathy of what they claim to be helping people heal. And it really wasn't helping anybody heal. It was suppressing symptoms. And that's when I came to realize that, when I kind of woke up to that reality, I knew I couldn't do it anymore. And there's part of me that thinks, well, maybe I should have just, continued on and started to practice, and I could have changed that around. But really, back where I was in my 20s when all of this was happening to me, I didn't know of too many alternatives. I didn't know that there were even naturopaths. I didn't know that was a thing. All I knew is that there were medical doctors and they prescribed drugs to people that were sick, or they removed body parts that were diseased. That's what I knew of medicine. And it's unfortunate because, this was many years ago, almost 25 years ago or more, probably more, when I was in medical school. And hindsight 2020, but I probably would have, I should have stayed with it and started to practice, and I could have made the practice something unique. But at the same time, after leaving medicine, that's when I found naturopathy. That's when I found natural hygiene, and that's when I eventually came across Dr. Morse. So it wasn't until after leaving medical school that I came into this whole other world of how truly healing can take place in the human body. So as I mentioned, it's weird where I am right now because, again, when I left medical school and I was trying to find a way to support myself, I always knew that I loved teaching, and that's really my first love. I remember even being a little kid, and I played school all of the time. I don't know how I got them, but my mom and dad got me a couple of desks, like school desks, and I would put my teddy bears in there, and I would pretend I was handing them homework and teaching them things. And it was just something I loved doing. And here I am now. My full-time job is I'm a teacher. And I really feel like that's what healers are teachers. Because, when we're working with clients and people are coming to us, and this is, where this naturopathic school is trying to develop future healers, we are helping to educate people how to best allow their bodies to heal. Because when it really comes down to it, healing comes from within. There's nothing external that can be added to your whole self that can create that vital energy that brings about healing. Now, I will say that, the first thing that I think in any healing program that should be done is a thorough detoxification. And depending on your age, that's going to be either easy or very challenging. And I shouldn't even say depending on your age. Depending on your age, your prior lifestyle, even, the family origin of what brought you into this planet, this incarnation. You know, some of us have more stuff that we have to detoxify out of our body than others. And it's a journey. It's not something you can do in a month or two. I mean, even if you're pretty healthy, usually you have several months or more to detoxify all of that congestion that's stuck in your interstitial spaces. These are the fluid spaces outside of your cells that tend to get backed up and congested. And the more congestion that's there in the form of thick, agglutinated types of particles, that's preventing, oxygen from coming to the cell. It's preventing, nutrients from coming into the cell to nourish the cell. It's also preventing waste products from leaving the cell. And a lot of these waste products are acidic, like lactic acid. And as these acidic waste particles accumulate in this interstitial congestion, that can start causing adverse effects on our cells and tissues. And this is, chronically, these acids start burning, they start, interfering with cellular and tissue function. And then next thing you know, you're having some pretty gnarly symptoms and you're sick. And this is where most people go to an allopathic doctor and they give you some sort of drug to turn off that signal that's telling you you're in pain. And you don't turn the signal off. It's kind of like, your car, which has on the dashboard lights that pop up when certain things are going on. Well, if you go to a pretty shady mechanic, they can, charge you $1,000 and fix it by just cutting the wires so that that light on your dashboard no longer pops up. And you think, oh, my car's fixed. That light's not coming on, so everything's good. No, they didn't really fix the problem. All they did was they turned off the signal. The signal's there for a reason. Our symptoms are there for a reason. And we don't want to ignore the symptoms. So I was listening to this astrologer that I listen to sometimes. And I don't knock astrology. I think that these types of esoteric sciences, astrology, tarot, these offer a lot of knowledge for a human. And I was listening to an astrologer. Her name is Livette. I'll put her YouTube link in the description if you're interested in her. I think she's quite knowledgeable. But she was talking about, the signs of the times right now and that we need to walk forward and not be afraid of what's coming, I guess, soon to all of us. I think that many people are waking up that right now in our world, things are looking pretty kind of sketchy, right? I mean, we don't know who the president is. Do we have a president? And if we do, who is this man? I mean, he doesn't seem very articulate. He doesn't seem very with it. There's a lot of people who are upset with if you voted. I'm sure, depending on who you voted for, it doesn't matter. I don't vote because you're only voting for somebody to oppress you and to steal from you. So I don't vote. But for those people that do vote, I know many people that were very upset with the election results, and it looked like there was some shady goings on of the election, and how this man that's in charge and then everybody that works around him, what are these people really doing? What is their intention? And why is it so many people are just following orders without questioning? There was one YouTube video, I can't remember if it was Jeff Berwick or if it was Max Egan. I listened to both of their little YouTube walk and talks. And they had a video of this woman where she was really proud. She was saying things like, I don't care what's in the vaccine. I don't care. I'm not going to look up the ingredients. Just give me the vaccine. And people were clapping. I mean, this is the state where we are right now, where we're just willing to follow these allopathic dictates and just take in unknown chemicals and just blindly have faith, all in the name of something where we're innately distrusting how our human body, how our immune system works. One thing that my passion in teaching, and I get really passionate when I talk about the immune system. I mean, I went into a PhD program in immunology because I had just a profound respect for the amazing and very interesting immune system and how it works, how these immune cells work. I found it all quite fascinating. However, again, going into PhD work in immunology, I became quite disheartened at all of the poor little mice that I had to kill as part of that PhD work, as that research. And that's another field I left. I didn't want to get into academic research and kill a bunch of animals because I was a vegan. I'm still a vegan. I don't eat animals, and I don't want to use them. And, as I continued on in immunology, I realized that most of the research that is funded goes back to paying for pharmaceutical companies to create more drugs. And that's a whole industry that I find to be quite non-virtuous. In fact, it's an evil system, the pharmaceutical companies. They're incredibly evil. They do a lot of things that, and I've talked about this in other videos, they do a lot that to get like vaccines and other drugs passed by the FDA, the way they put the clinical trials together, like even with this most current vaccine or these different types of, depending on the pharmaceutical company, these different types of vaccines. One other naturopath that I chat with mentioned to me that she knows that one drug company for sure used as the control another vaccine. A control should be saline solution whenever you're doing research, because you're not going to get any kind of response if you inject saline into bodily tissue. I mean, when I was in medical school, that's how we practiced using syringes. We would just, take in some saline and then just do like an intramuscular injection. No reaction, you're just learning how to inject saline into somebody. And that should be the control in an experiment. When I teach my students how to do scientific experiments, we have controls usually of saline. Now, it depends on what you're testing, but if it's something chemical-wise, saline's the perfect control. These pharmaceutical companies are using other vaccines with their own set of adverse reactions to compare that to this COVID-19 vaccine. And what they have to do is prove, compared to the control, the number of adverse reactions aren't that much different. Well, if you're comparing it to another vaccine and all vaccines are dangerous, then of course you're going to be able to pass this chemical poison and get it off and, inject it into millions and billions of humans. And this is just nonsense. I mean, I can't believe people are just allowing this to happen. So anyway, let's come back to what I first started talking about. Me walking in two worlds. And this might be somewhat of a long video. I have class in 30 minutes, so I'm going to have to not make it too long, but I do have to teach. But yeah, my college, and I have to, go under the radar a lot with what I do here. But I'm trying to build up my own naturopathic, natural healing science courses that I offer. And I'm still offering health consultations too. So if you do want to improve your health, if you do want to detoxify, if you want to take charge of your body and learn how to work with your bodily symptoms so that when you do go through a healing crisis, you have ways to mitigate that. If this is something you're interested in, you can set up an initial consultation with me, and I'm happy to work with you. My website's below. I'll have the link where you can sign up and do health consultations. Right now, because I teach during the week, most of my health consultations are on the weekends. But, I'm usually busy every weekend with several health consultations, plus doing my own teaching courses. And I have to build all of this up because I don't know how much longer I can teach in a system that supports allopathy and its deranged, delusional ways of looking at the human body, right? I mean, just walking in two worlds, walking with one foot in allopathic, helping students wanting to become doctors and nurses in this system. And then my other foot, which I'm leaning more on because I'm more passionate about it, naturopathic types of healing modalities. And, helping people learn to trust themselves once again, because this is something we've lost. We have been through 12 years of public indoctrination, which I call modern education. We have been programmed to not trust nature and that innate wisdom within our own healing modality. We have an immune system. It works perfectly well. We don't need to stimulate it without, due cause. I mean, stimulating it with adjuvants, with aluminum and polysorbate 80 and mercury and all of the other nonsense they add to vaccines to make them stronger. All this is doing is creating more toxicity. And, I'm not going to say, because I've heard people, nonchalantly say that this COVID-19 vaccine is going to insert something, I don't know. Because it is a messenger RNA vaccine, which notoriously these types of vaccines have been very dangerous in trials from the past. So I don't know if they're injecting anything other than that with it, but I've seen a lot of videos where they're pointing to that effect. And I'm sure this video is gonna my YouTube channel might be taken down because of this video. I already have one strike. I was gone for a week or so, and my second strike, I don't know, or my third strike, it might take me off, right? So LBRY, that'll be in the description below. I might then start uploading to like Odyssey or BitChute too, but I am on LBRY. That's where I am hosting all of my side videos, because LBRY, they can't take videos down from there, right? So we need the truth to be spoken, and existence is spoken, the word is spoken, and this is how we share information. But walking in two worlds, it's tough, and it's hard to keep doing this. But I also love teaching, even though a lot of my students in my 9-to-5 job are going into allopathy. At least through me, they're getting the truth. I don't sugarcoat symptoms. I talk about how the body really works, and I let my students make up their own minds. I don't flat out tell them anything is bad. I'm not going to say, oh, vaccines are terrible, you should never get one. I never say that stuff to my students. But I explain to them how the vaccine works, what it does. And I would hope that they would be able to come to their own conclusion. And I've had students ask me about it after class or email me questions about vaccinations. What I've noticed, though, that's quite unfortunate in the past, I started teaching at the college level in 2001. So it's been exactly 20 years I've been teaching. Full-time, 15 of those 20 years. And it's sad because I remember when I first started teaching, and even at the beginning of my teaching career, I was really into immunology. And I was against vaccines ever since I left medical school. I mean, when I was in medical school, I witnessed my roommate having an incredible vaccine reaction. And she was sick for like a month after our hepatitis B series of vaccines. And then, I had other people that I knew, somebody that I know, their child died after getting vaccinated. And of course they called it SIDS, but I was just like, oh, hell no. This is a toxic field. This has nothing to do with health. It's just maintaining diseases and creating diseases. That's what allopathy is. So I got out of it. And then once I started teaching and I knew vaccines were, in my own understanding of how they worked, not something to mess with, yet I would teach students how they worked. At the beginning of my career, many of my students asked questions and they were curious. Nowadays, students don't care, and it's really scary, the trend in how much more indoctrinated the college students of today are compared to those when I first started teaching in the early 2000s. Very scary. I mean, in the early 2000s, people were curious. They had questions. Now, the indoctrination has been so solidified through their 18 years of life prior to getting to college, from kindergarten to their senior year of high school. They're all being told a certain way to think. And I see it now with students when they're in my classes, they just want to be spoon fed the answers. Not all of them are that way. I've got students that are curious, but I'm seeing less and less of that curiosity. And I'm seeing more parroting. People just want to know how to spit out the correct answer. They don't want to create something original or come up with an original thought of, questioning. And, it's silly. I mean, it's not silly, it's scary. It's very scary. It's very scary what's going on. So anyway, this is, my passion is teaching, and I love doing it. I love teaching about the human body. Naturopaths are, I think, the most that's the field of healing that's true. It's healing with nature. And this is why my website is called Natural Law Health. Natural law is really the only law. Everything else that's not natural law, if it's a law, it's man's law. Man's law can change. Man's law, you can cross an imaginary line called a border, and man's law will be different on one side of that imaginary line, and then it changes to something else on the other end, on the other side. With man's law, there is no justice, because it's usually somebody's opinion backed up behind the gun of the state. Natural law, though, is constant. It does not change. So things like gravity, things like karma, it doesn't matter where in the world you are. If you jump off a building, you're going to fall, right? That's natural law. And we have natural law dictating our own health. If you eat crap, if you are stressed, if you're injecting chemicals that are unnatural into your body, natural law states you're going to have to detoxify that crap out of you. Because if it stays inside of you, it's going to create dis-ease. Now, one thing I learned from Dr. Morse is that naturopaths don't deal with diseases. At least true naturopaths don't. Diseases, which are, a collective of symptoms that allopaths give a name to, we'll let the allopaths have the diseases. You don't have to complicate healing so much to create all of these different diseases that you then need a DSM-4 and DSM-5 and all of these other books, the physician's desk reference. I got all of those books when I first started medical school because in allopathy, they want you to know the drugs because that's what you're there to do when you become an allopathic medical doctor. You're a drug pusher. I also remember, and I'm kind of on a rant right now, but when I was an undergrad and I was, applying to medical schools, my one of my professors, he's like, "Why do you want to go to medical school?" And I'm like, "Because I want to be a doctor." And he's like, "Don't go to medical school. You're too intelligent for medical school. You should go and do some, research." And I loved his classes. I've always loved school. And he was telling me not to go to medical school, but I was brainwashed. My parents, my mom especially, wanted me to be a medical doctor. And I'm still kind of easily influenced by people, but that's one thing I broke out of over the past 10 years is learning how to be my own person. And so again, hindsight 2020, but I didn't listen to that professor and I went to medical school and, I'm still paying medical school debt, even though I'm not a practicing physician, but I'm doing something greater. And it's a greater cause to be a true healer, a true naturopath. Naturopaths don't deal with symptoms of disease. We deal with symptoms, right? Symptoms are just little red flags. They're the dashboard on your car that, hey, something's wrong. And this should be something to trigger a change. And that change needs to be change in lifestyle, a helpful way to detoxify these chemicals out of your body or whatever it is. And I will say that most of ill health, it doesn't start at the chemical level. It kind of starts at the spiritual level. We have big karmic issues coming into this incarnation that we have to resolve. And then we also have like emotional issues that we have to deal with. And a lot of times that mixture sets up the physical capacity for a disease to then develop, right? And again, I'm not dealing with specific diseases. I'm just telling you how spiritually humans become ill. So what I often see in helping clients go through detoxification and healing crises, healing events, is that they have an emotional release, and you're releasing the trapped emotions in those tissues where the illness began. Because you can have like 20 people all taking in the same crappy diet and having the same stresses placed upon them. But where they feel the symptoms will differ based on, other emotional effects. Like, for instance, the 7 chakras. And each chakra is correlated with a specific endocrine gland. Like, for instance, the 5th chakra deals with the thyroid gland. So, just to give you an example, maybe as a child, you were told to be quiet. It's like, stop talking, or you talk too much, or maybe you were yelled at for being creative. Anyway, your expression, your ability to speak your truth, that's thyroid gland. If you were told these things as a child, you might grow up later in life with a thyroid disorder. You might even develop younger in life, right? But the emotional energy of you being told not to speak your truth is setting in to your thyroid gland. And it might momentarily become hyperfunctional, where you have too much thyroid hormone output, and then eventually it becomes hypofunctional. You stop speaking your truth, and your thyroid gland starts to not work any longer. So we see this emotional release through the healing process, and it's very common. And when you're working with a naturopath, they will help guide you through. A good naturopath will help guide you through these events, not just the physical events, because there are many things you can do to help release physical toxins from your body, but how to navigate the waters of emotional release. Other tools like high potency homeopathic remedies. I mean, you want to work with a very knowledgeable homeopath for those. But also the Bach flowers. I think Bach flowers are wonderful to help with emotional types of disturbances. So while you're physically releasing, you can also help emotionally release. So in a naturopathic type of school, the type that Dr. Morse is putting together, we want to start with foundational understandings of the biological sciences, chemistry, and then moving on to the human body. And like I said, when you start reading people's irises, you're going to see an iris. You're going to notice various things about the color, okay? And you can even read, for some people, the sclera. Like for this iris, you can see, very thick skin ring. You can see some sulfur. You can see right around the pupil. It's very dark. That's the stomach ring. That dark means chronic, right? The darker the iris is in that area, that means a more chronic condition. So that would be a hypofunctional digestive tract. So maybe the peristaltic activity is a little bit slowed down. So there's a lot that you can get by non-invasive practices, by just reading the iris. But we want to start again with the foundational understanding. And like I said, in my chemistry class, link below, we're going to talk about the levels in chemistry and build upon them. So this past Sunday, we started with the atomic level. And I just basically explained what an atom was, what it was made up of. It's subatomic particles. Because then as we move forward and we discuss chemical reactions, and really the foundation of physiology is all about metabolic processes that are occurring in our cells. So basically, physiology is biochemistry. It's the biochemical reactions taking place within a cell. And you have to understand chemistry to understand those reactions. And we'll get into acid-base balance. And acid-base is quite important because many of the metabolic waste products we produce as normal cellular activity are acidic. We have to release those acids. But many of us are congested. We're so backed up that the acids back up and they start burning the cells. And it's just, it's a thing. So if you don't detoxify, natural law dictates you're going to be ill. And you're going to probably be backed up more so in those organs and tissues where emotionally you're holding more karma or you've had more negative experiences depending on the organ. Another great book, when I was in medical school, actually it was like right when I left medical school, I read this. A friend recommended this book. It was Carolyn Myss' Anatomy of the Spirit. She talks about the 7 chakras, and she correlates them to the endocrine glands, and also other religious types of esoteric ways of understanding the human body. Like, not only are there the 7 chakras, but you have like the Kabbalistic tree. You also have like the 7 sacraments in Catholicism. So there are very profound spiritual ways that you can connect to healing. And in allopathy, they separate all of that away from the physical. So in allopathy, you're essentially just a machine. You're just something where you can take body parts away, add chemicals to. You can treat the body like a car in allopathic medicine. But in naturopathic, we look at the body more spiritually. And it's not as simple as just removing parts or adding something that's missing in the form of a drug, or suppressing symptoms, which is the more common method of treatment. It's really understanding the body more than that. And I think everybody should be their own physician. You should be your own, you take care of you. Walk through that fire. Don't suppress symptoms. Go through these experiences. Go through your karma. You have to face it at some point. And a lot of times it's going to come to you in the form of physical illness. But don't be afraid to walk through that fire. And this is connecting me back to Livette, the astrologer I was talking about. In her video that she put out today, she talked about that. Go through the fire, which is really what gave me the idea to talk about this topic today. Because I think most of our physical issues are the karmic experiences we have to take head on. Because if we try to suppress them, or if we try to avoid it, it's not going away. We still have to face it at some point. And the easiest way is to go right on through. Go through that fire. Feel the burn. Feel the pain. Support your body in truth. Walk the path of truth. Natural law is really the only law. So I'm going to end it here, as I have a pro-allopathic course to teach in just a little bit. But, I do make it as holistic, and I try to teach as much truth as possible. Well, I only teach the truth. I'm never going to lie to my students about anything. And if my students ask me questions, I will flat out tell them the truth, no matter what they tell me. But I do have to kind of stay within the limits of what the textbook is teaching, right? So, have a wonderful day. Links down in the description below this video. And hopefully, some of you might join our class. The next live class is this Sunday. Last Sunday, Dr. Vorse was with us, and he might be with us again this Sunday. So, we had a little Q&A afterwards. We were able to ask questions, and when Dr. Morse is around, I let him speak because he's a very wise man. So, I will see you all next time. Bye.